It's wonderful to see all of you this afternoon. I'm Sally Monastery, and I'm president of the Scripps Fine Arts Foundation. And I want to welcome you to a very exciting program here for us and recognize our collaboration this year for some of our meetings with the Williamson Gallery. And especially like to thank Erin Curtis, the director of the gallery, and her staff, T. Pacini and Kurt Delman, who worked very hard to figure out how they could set up chairs for us to sit around the surroundings. So we're very pleased to be together with this collaboration, and we're looking forward to the future. And like I said, it's wonderful to see all of you here. We're still accepting, membership. So if you're here and you haven't turned yours in yet, please do so. It helps us in our planning. And so keep those of our members that live up on the hills and your thoughts and stuff as they cope with possible evacuations. So I would like to introduce Marty Hedford, who will introduce our speaker today. Marty, here. That was an introduction of the main name, Marty Hartford.
Thank you. Our distinguished speaker today is Gorman Bentley, and he's an artist, educator, and a source of inspiration to so many people. Gorman is not only a passionate queer artist, but he also has a rich background in education. In fact, Sally and I remember him from our days teaching in the Ontario Montclair School District. And he trained teachers in ways to work with children who are non-English speakers, and we really needed help with that. We had children from many different countries who could not speak English. And I remember leaving Gorman's sessions with all sorts of inspiring new ideas and ways to help my students in the classroom as they were struggling to learn their English. Gorman started his career as a teacher, but then he rose up quickly to become a principal, and later he took a very bold step and started a new school, and it was a bilingual school with a dual immersion program, which meant that the English students learned Spanish and the Spanish speakers learned English, and by the time they left the school, they were all bilingual. And I think now it's still working that way, and parents are competing to get their kids into that program. Currently, Gorman is an educator at the Norton Simon Museum. He's working with youth and families, helping them learn to see art in new ways. He has a very unique perspective because he was shaped both by his artistic endeavors and his experience in education, as well as his experience living in the Dakota Prairie as a young child, where he spent a good deal of time out on the prairie alone, just gazing and taking it in, nature. Gorman believes that we must always stay open to new ideas, and that art helps us do that. It helps us with our personal growth. His art he describes as being like a journey. And we can't go to the Norton Simon today, but Gorman has come to us to take us on our own art journey here in Claremont. So please join me in welcoming Gorman Bentley.
It's so nice to be here amongst so many friends. I'm so honored not only to speak to this group, but I'm honored to speak in this room because I live in this neighborhood and I regularly come here for their displays that I've already read about, the one that's there today. The show today is called Unseen. And it's been used once before, and there's a few people in the room know I've used this once before. But it's an important theme to me. As it was already said, I grew up in the Dakota Prairies, but I grew up with parents that had challenges. Now I realize that you can write a book about difficult upbringing and make a movie about it and run for politics, but I didn't do that. So I had challenges with my parents. They were both alcoholic, really destroyed by World War II fighting. Both of my parents were in the war. And so I spent a lot of time alone because I was different. I didn't want to play baseball with the kids. I wasn't well accepted by any of my relatives. So I was alone. So unseen is the way I grew up. And then as an educator, it's all about helping them, not us. So as an educator, we're unseen as well. And so now I'm an artist, and guess what? It's all about being seen. So it's a challenge for me. So this has come up, like I said, once before. So an artist's job is really to have other people see really who you are and other aspects of the world. And this is my self-portrait. I didn't bring it today, but you can see it's an early piece of mine, and it was done so intuitively, I didn't even know I was doing it when I did it. And as with the work we're going to look at, was done within minutes, and it's one of my favorite pieces. And this was done within minutes, and it's one of my favorite. And some works take 2 years. So that's a little bit about now how uncomfortable it is for me. As it was already said, I won't spend any time on this except to just notice I did work in Guadalajara, which was really important to me. And let's see, I guess there's nothing else other than I am represented by a gallery downtown, and I am the resident artist of the hotel. And so anytime before 10 p.m., walk in, have a drink, have one of the little pizzas, and just take a look at the art. My style. Okay, this is now I get into teacher mode, because fine art, people think it's a term to say, oh, I make nice stuff. No, fine art is a category. As you know, it's in our name, Fine Art Foundation. It doesn't mean good art. It means art that has meaning as its primary source. So there is decorative art, and there's nothing wrong with decorative art. But the purpose of decorative art is to be pretty and interesting. The purpose of fine art is to say something. It doesn't have to be pretty. If it is pretty, okay, that works. But fine art is what I do. Some of it may or may not be pretty. And I am mostly non-objective, which means it doesn't mean I inherently gave it a figure that you're supposed to recognize. For the most part, I try to be so abstracted or with no references to figures, so that it's more about feeling and mood and not about trying to figure out what it is. That's why most of my works are going to be untitled, because I found out early in my painting that when you give it a title, they're now searching for the meaning of the title, and it's hugely distracting. So it's like, forget the title part. And like I said, intuitive, the idea is you don't know where you're going when you start. So some things like this particular one, I practiced doing the 3 brush strokes several times before I did it. This isn't intuitive, but most of my work really, all of a sudden, the work starts appearing after it's been painted maybe 10 times. I identify as a queer artist, as you heard, and if you haven't had art history in the last 10 years, you're gonna go, what's that? Queer art, as you can see, a few of the fabulous names, we now are able to piece together qualities of queer artists. They are disappearing in today's world. So it's art history that we look at as a queer art, because today, if you grow up accepted by the time you recognize you're different at age 5, you don't have all the trauma that goes with growing up queer. But if you're any of those people, or me truly, yes, there's trauma that goes with it. So how does that trauma come in art? It comes from seeing the world differently than everybody else is seeing the world. And knowing that you're seeing it differently, but not knowing why you're seeing it differently. So queer artists, if you look at some of those names and some of the other ones that you can think of, David Hopley's still alive, they have a different way of thinking and looking at things. Not to say you have to be queer to be a good artist, but or it does have a great history. I do have influences, and very few of them are queer. So there you go, because I bring that. I already know that part. These are some of the artists that you're going to maybe reference and say, I think Gorman's trying to be a little rock. Oh, yes, he's one of the many inspirations I use. And because of my upbringing, the themes are going to be what are common in queer art. They're going to have a little pain, a little suffering, contradiction, looking at the world from the outside. So, at the Norton Simon, I'm now there 7 years. I'm at the Getty as a volunteer for 11. And the Getty taught me how to look at art and how to tell others how to look at art, because the Getty has a wonderful budget and they have a wonderful training program. But the Norton Simon hired me, and it is my second home. And at the Norton Simon, I've come up with a quick way to work with all groups, not just students, but adults as well, because I was 61 years old when the Getty told me how to look at art. And I thought, I have 2 master's degrees. How come I didn't know before 61? So I'm on a mission as an educator to help, notably students, but adults as well. We have the rest of our lives. Let's know how to get the best out of art. So I'm not going to go through them because we're actually going to practice them. So here's how we start. If you read number 1 already, you have to actually be ready to look at art. It's not like the other arts, dance and music and architecture. You don't have to totally put out the outside world. I think it would be helpful. But in the world of visual arts, you have to have your body ready to take it in. Meaning you can't be worrying about the fires right now. You can't be worrying about the smoke that you breathed last night. You can't be worrying about all these things, or the temperatures, or is it going to be better tomorrow? All that stuff has to go away. And the easiest way to do that, and a 5th grader taught me this at the Norton Simon. He goes, Mr. Bentley, what you're doing is box breathing. I was doing yoga breathing. Box breathing is for anxiety, and kids know it. Oh my gosh. Okay, I do yoga at the Claremont Club, so I know this in a different way. So the quick way to do box breathing is you think of a box. The screen can be a box, the painting can be a box. The idea is you breathe up to the count of 4, you hold, you breathe down slowly to the count of 4. Why are we going to do that? Because we're actually going to practice looking at art. So, right now, I'm going to ask you, put your feet flat on the floor and feel the ground. If you do yoga, you know this. Feel the ground that you are connected to. This is how we manage our life, is through our feet or however we're connected to the ground. And then however you're sitting, actually feel the hip bones. Straighten out your back as comfortably as you can. Take your shoulders and ride them up, back, and down. And now we're ready. Breathe. So breathe in slowly to the count of 4. Hold. Slowly out to the count of 4. Do it again. And if you want an A+, do it with your eyes closed. Open your eyes, you are here. So the next thing to do is to look at the paint. I call it smell the paint. If it were sculpture, it would be stone or bronze, but it's paint right now. So look at the paint. If you have a hard time getting distracted as you look at the paint, I always say look at corners first. And then because we're from ground up, paintings are from ground up. So look up this way. Next step, you can figure out everything at once well. So find a detail, find something in this painting you want to look at closely and ignore everything else. Good, you see your eyes, you're on that detail. As you're looking at that detail, think, why am I looking at this detail? What attracted me? And for the A+, how do I feel about this detail? That can be hard. Don't beat yourself up if you don't have a feeling. But if you do, that's a nice bonus to have right now. And if you want the A++, if you can see the detail that you're looking at with your eyes closed. Peek if you need to. Okay, now for the fun part. Turn to a buddy or two and tell them what you're looking at in there. Turn to your buddies and talk. I'll stop you in a minute. Okay, I'm going to stop you now just for the interest of time. I get my hearing aids tomorrow, so I wish I could have heard all of you, but this is what I'm seeing with your hands. Some of you are doing like this. I'm not sure what that means, but you're going to tell me. See this, see little things like this. So, all good. Okay, so now it's the interactive part. Tell the rest of us, because we actually have to put it together. Because you all saw something different. Let's put it together. Who can tell us? What are you looking at? What did you look at? Go for it.
Okay, I'm looking at the V shape as the lines come together there in top 3/4, and I'm looking at the lines going through it, and I'm getting a sense of speeding through space. And it makes me feel light.
Could you hear that?
It makes you feel light.
Lighter. Light. Makes me feel light.
Light, she said, right? Okay, so you talked about the V, you talked about space, because the V by its nature is sort of surrounded by space, and then you said it makes you feel light. Perfect, that's a great beginning. What else?
Just
Yes.
remember to use your playground voice.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah, you're going to have to give me a playground
sorry.
voice back.
Okay, I looked at the white little lines on the left, up at the top, to the left, that one, yes.
Why did you look at that tiny little spot?
Well, I first looked at the one below, but then I liked the one up top.
Okay.
And it fades out. to the right, similar to a comet or shooting star tail.
Okay, so you got a reaction over here. Oh.
And then from there, I thought, well, the rest is the Milky Way.
Okay, wow, wow, thank you. So we have a shooting star and we have the Milky Way. What did the rest of you come up with? Yes.
Where you see the thick paint, I thought it reminded me of a Japanese aesthetic somehow. And so to me it was the handle of a disappearing blade that is a samurai sword. That's what I thought.
Okay. Is there a feeling that goes with a samurai sword?
I don't know, it's an interesting era to me, and a lot of the people who made those samurai swords became sculptors, and that's what I did.
Ooh, so here's all great stuff. She's connecting it to her own life, her own experience, and her own talents. One more, because we've had comets, and we've had space, and we've had samurai swords. Where can we go from here? Yes.
It's a bird.
It's a bird. Can you tell me why you say it's a bird?
The bird, I stared at his little claws right there at his bottom, or underneath the bird, and he's soaring, and I saw him. I was staring at little claws.
What is the bird doing?
Soaring.
Soaring. Okay. How does that feel to you?
I've always wanted to fly. I think everybody in this room is always wanted to fly.
Okay, so a will too. Okay, now, after you have calmed down and you smell the paint and you found a detail and you connect it to other details and you have a feeling for it, you get to read the label in the museum. You don't get to read the label until you've done that. So that's your homework for the next time you come to the Norton Simon or here, or Chafee, or any other museum. Now you get the label, and you'll see why. It is called, if I would have started with this, you would have all gone, okay. But you all went, oh! Yes, I call it because I get to say what it means to me. I don't get to say what it means to you. And I'm so grateful that I have heard so many, what Zorg has come up before, ballerina has come up before, Asia, I have no idea, the continent has come up before, and many others. So I am grateful that it means different things to different people. However, for me, when I told you I practiced this one on paper, and then when I got the actual paint and spatula that you scrape a hole with in my hand, and I did what I practiced, it didn't finish up there. And I was upset because now I have to paint the whole thing black again and do it again. But I noticed the little feather that flew off. And I thought, the wing is broken, but it's soaring. The bird is soaring with a broken wing. Queer art, we're back there. If you can soar with a broken wing, and it's obvious that the wing is just broken because I see a feather flying off as the bird is soaring, casting away what it didn't need. That's my story. But this particular one, it is literally at the bar in the hotel. People are having drinks right next to it. But you can see it at the hotel anytime you want. So this is what we just did. This is what you're supposed to do for any object you honestly want to experience as art. If you want to just walk around and look at stuff, just know you're not experiencing it as art. Take the time to do it with an object or two before you leave any place. Okay, so I brought another painting over here, and I'm so glad the room looks great with my paintings. I'll bring it over here. Now, if you are in education like I am, anything that looks like a blackboard is kind of fun. So this is something I've been recently playing with, is the blackboard. So what I'm going to ask you to do is we're going to do a shortcut on this one. Just do what you know. Smell the paint. Look at something that might draw your interest. Now turn to a buddy and tell them what you think about what you're looking at. Turn to a buddy right now. I'm going to stop you right now. This is good. It was slow building up, let me tell you. It did build up. We won't process, but I'll tell you, my artist friend who spent a lot of time in this principal's office as a kid calls it detention. So I want to show you that. Remember I said I was inspired by other artists? All we can hope for as artists is continuing on the world of art from before us, not copying. And few of us get to be innovators. Few of us. People say that few get to be innovators. The best that most of us can hope for is we're taking something the next level. Cy Twombly is one of my favorite influences. And he did 1968 New York City. It just sold at Sotheby's for $70 million. 2 years later, he did Untitled, so you're getting where I'm coming from. And this year I did this. I'm hoping in the best way possible. Not that I get 70 million, but I'm hoping that I'm taking it in the next step, or next place, or next idea. I hope. That's all I can do is try and see what I can do to look at my artists that inspire me. Picasso says, bad artists copy. Great artists steal. And what he means by steal, because when I heard it, I had your reaction to it. What he meant is it becomes a part of you and you go to the next place, not copy. If I did this, which you bet I know how to do, if I did that, I would be copying Cy Twombly, and that's wrong. I'm knowing what it is, and a good artist has to know art history. That's a basic for a good artist. Hopefully I'm taking that to that next place. The painting that we have over here, bring it over. This one is actually in my home. So it came off the wall. The museum was very kind to let me put a painting against the wall. Don't ever do that with an assignment. I'll just have you look at it individually right now. You know to smell the paint. You know that look at one thing. You know to get a feeling. I'm going to give you the label. I just call it a set. And I always tell people with my art, start with a metaphor. Don't start with an object. Start with something for you that is falling. Something emotionally that's falling. Something, a loss that you've had. Maybe multiple losses. But if you want to go to people are falling, planes are falling, crosses are falling, if you want to go there, you can, but start with the metaphor, because that connects to that feeling. I love this one. Like I said, my TV room is painted black. It's on the wall, and I see it all the time. Okay, this one is at the Getty right now. The Getty has a staff show. It's also the opening for my website. It was an accident. I painted on acrylic, and then I thought, I'm going to paint black over it and start scraping away to see the acrylic underneath. And as I'm scraping away, because I started going, maybe some nice kind of crescent, some nice abstract kind of a boomerang kind of look. As I start scraping away, a leg appears.
It does.
And because I do yoga, if you do yoga and you do a warrior pose, whether it's the Shiva getting his swords up and ready, or Shiva doing this and getting his swords ready to chop off the head of the demon, that is the leg of power. So the idea that it appeared was a gift. The first one, the one I call Broken Wing, that was planned. This one is much earlier, and it was a gift to me. So this is one of the only, other than my self-portrait, that is not for sale at all, because I feel it came to me for a purpose. I don't do things that all look like things. You say, Gorman, you did a bird, you did a leg, I think I see crosses, I see stuff. Sometimes I do purely abstract. And one could argue this is decorative if you put no emotion to it, other than just it looks interesting and it could go nicely with the sofa. But you could also you could put together sea and clouds and dangers and other things from colors, and you could put the idea of layers. It can go metaphorical and it can be in fine art, but this is one of those where you go, is it decorative, is it fine art, and what percent on one or the other? Everything else I've shown you right now is only in the fine art category. You can see my work at the Paul Williams Revere Gallery in Ontario. If you've never been downtown Ontario, it's different than you remember. It is becoming very upscale with a lot of art galleries and studios and a lot of new building in Pitzer College. And this gallery is 1926, and it is the original post office. And this gallery is one of the most famous architects in our country, who was African American, who could not go into the buildings after he designed some of them. Paul Revere Williams, and it's named after him. And I wanted to do homage to another artist that wasn't appreciated for who he was, just for what he could do. And if you tell the story of a queer artist, that's sometimes how we feel. I want to be appreciated for who I am, not just for what I can do. And that's Paul Revere Williams. So I begged to give him this gallery, and the show is going on right now. It's open only by appointment, but and you can see the stencil ceiling. It's a fabulous building. You can also maybe see my work in Mount 17 Gardens if you have a friend there. They don't open it up to everybody. You have to be invited. So if you do go there, they have 2 galleries in that center that are pretty amazing. This one is a whole room, not just one wall. This one truly is a wall. So my work is there as well. As I said, I am the resident artist downtown. That you can get into any day before 10 p.m. Then you have to have a key. And with that, this is my website, because I'm the only person with the name Gorman Bentley in the whole world. So all you have to do is Google me, and you'll actually know more about me than you want to know. Not just the website, but everything else about me is on. No, I have it. So take a look at my website. Thank you, and I'm here for any questions.
Thank you very much, Gorman. Does anyone have a question?
They're all fairly recent. When did you actually move from educating to painting?
Okay.
Repeat your question.
Oh, the question is, most of the paintings have a 2020 and on date. Good question. So when did I start? The answer I like to give that is the right answer is, I've always been an artist. I'm one of those weird people that believes you have to be born an artist. I know people will argue that out, but in my world, you have to be born an artist. The way I was the kid, when everyone else sold lemonade for 5 cents, I sold watercolors for 3. They sold a lot more lemonade than I sold watercolors. But, so as a kid, I was very artistic. However, I took a lot of art classes in college. And when I went to live on the Indian reservation as part of a work study in my junior year, my parents threw them all away. And when I came back, they said, "You didn't want that job, did you?" And I decided I wasn't going to be an artist. So I promoted art as an educator to everyone. My school teachers in English, Spanish, and Mandarin to all students. And everyone got a wonderful arts education. And I would bring in visiting artists who would pay them to talk and work with students when it wasn't on the test. So I'm going to say all my life. However, when I retired, it offered a big opportunity to go to the Getty, to meet other artists, to then volunteer at the Huntington, and then now at the North Simon, where a lot of people are artists. And when we shut down for COVID, I know we have tragic stories, and I honor that, but for me, COVID was a life changer in that it gave me permission to just buy anything I wanted because we weren't spending money on anything else, and just to do it all day long. And I could hire a teacher in the Ukraine who could teach me, and I could pay that teacher until they were bombed. So it is a lifelong, but if you're going to look at when did it become full-time artist, it was 2020. Yeah, that's a lot of people's life changed in 2020. Any other questions?
Yeah, at the Norton Simon, it said you work with youth, but what's the age range that you would work with there?
They tend to do 5th grade and up. And so I like all of those ages. Yes, any age needs to know how to look at art. And then I also do tours for the public as well. I focus more on students, and so if I get busy with students, I tell them that's public, but I do all ages. The age that I found most interesting wasn't your question, but I'll just tell you, high school kids. High school kids have a curiosity of their place in the world because they're getting ready to go out into the world, and they connect to art in a very meaningful way as a vehicle to try to discover themselves. And so since we look at art like, obviously at the North Simon, they're not having my art, but they have, Picasso and Ramon and Cezanne. They look and they find their own, just like you did. You find your own story, and high school kids notably. 5th graders aren't on the search so much, but when you're in 11th grade, you're seriously on the search.
And Gorman will be around a little bit, so feel free to chat with him. Our next program is very exciting. It's up on October 8th at Mount San Antonio Gardens, and we will be having a luncheon, and the Martinez brothers. You have to come and hear the wonderful story of the Martinez brothers. I'll get it right with this one. And then have a lovely lunch and be able to explore some of their artwork in the gallery at Barnes. So thank you all for coming today. Please help yourself to some refreshments, and if you have further questions for Gorman. And again, thanks a bunch.